Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and this little beast here is the Wiha Bicut Supercut with the insulated industrial handle. It's one of my favorite types of handles, ever since I got this pair of multi-pliers. But this has a little trick up its sleeve in terms of it being a proportional side cutter, and then you push this button and it becomes a high leverage side cutter. Do it this way. Now, what that does is give you an amount more leverage. How much more? Well, I'm not sure. This was the tag that came with it. So right here, it says, what is that? Patented dynamic joint requires 40% less force. You come down here, and it says 2 pairs of pliers, up to 50% less hand strength required. And then there was this little thing hanging on the plier for pushing the button, as if it changes color, which it doesn't, saying you get 200% power. More power? I don't know. And they show it cutting a chain. I don't know if I'd cut a chain with it. Maybe a really small chain, in fact, about this size, this actual size. But let's take a closer look at it and compare it to a few others. The price on these is quite reasonable. You can get them for in the $30 range. I had shown this Crescent here, which is basically also a high leverage design, a little bit different. I'm going to go over the differences here. This one's quite inexpensive. This is being advertised as 2 pliers in one. You get the standard side cutter you might be used to, say similar to this thing, but then you can hit the button and get a high leverage one. Now the high leverage things do have limitations. Here's an NWS cutter that you can see takes quite a bit of handle movement for very little jaw movement, and that's the case here too. Which means you holding this in one hand, and it is not spring-loaded. Holding this is about the max I can comfortably control the tool. That's pretty small. Here's like Romex, I'd have to actually let go of the tool to get that in and then start the cutting before I can snip it off. And boy, does it cut right through it. In fact, here's a nail. I can easily just snip a nail all day. It's also a fairly soft cut. Now, the difference here with the Crescent is spring-loaded, so I don't have to keep that finger, that limiting finger on the inside, so I can go to a full extension and still maintain control over the tool. And this cuts fairly well. I'm even choked up on it. However, I did notice with the Crescent, if you just let go, it flips all the way open, and in fact it took me a while to realize how to close it when it got stuck in this position. And basically I've worn down this little securing nub that you can see kind of right here, because it pops open. That's what keeps, it's supposed to stay within this this little detent here. That's the range of it, but it flies open. You just have to close it manually. Kind of a little bit under-engineered, but what do you expect for, under $20? Anyway, back to this guy. It's a double pivot design. You can see the main pivot right here. And then when you deploy the power button, it locks into a pivot point down here. And I can go ahead and give a false activation of that. So this one here now slides back and forth. If this is locked into it, then the pivot becomes a little bit lower here. So as I can push into, have to find the spot, there we go. So you can see what's happening there. It's still rounding, but the handle is now operating it differently. This then locks the handle into, whoops, I guess it's this side, locks it into one uniform piece. If I push the handle, now this separates it. Very similar to how Snap-on does it with their high leverage slip joint pliers, where they have the pivot. They have a dual pivot. You can't turn off the high leverage on these. You're either in this one or in this one, which is just a grip size. But they've got the double pivot here. Others, when I was playing with these, I realized you can either, actually in both of these, you can design it handle-wise for either the extra leverage or you design it for, you know, the uniform standard amount of leverage. Designing it for both has inherent weaknesses. There's more moving parts. You have to line this thing up. At the moment, it seems pretty sturdy, but if I line it up just right, I can see that maybe I could get it part way. In fact, if you do it halfway, it locks the plier. But I could see, you know, maybe a blow to the plier changing this, you know, knocking that out just like I did manually. Haven't had it, not too worried about it, but it does allow you one large pair of pliers that you can use with dexterity when you just need either a larger opening or, you know, maybe a more predictable one, you know, cutting wire. Very easy to do. But if you run into something else, need to snip off some screws, some bolts, some nails, you can just drop it into that power mode. So, you know, as you get older, your hand strength's diminished, or, you know, you just want more tools, this would be a good option. I have loved this handle. I mean, it just fits good in my hand. So when I saw these have been around for years, and they come in different handles too, but this kind of power button, so it is dialed in, as long as it's heavily forged. And if you look at this, obviously Wiha Tools, USA, German tool, I thought, but where is it made? Where would you guess? Let's see. Designed in, manufactured in Vietnam by Wiha, designed in Germany, Wiha Tools USA. So anyway, there you go. I have seen these things in other forms available in Lowe's. Lowe's seems to be upping their Wiha game, as they should. But it's nice to have a, you know, a very large set of side cutters. You know, these had been and kind of still are my favorites. But what we've discovered, you know, over time is make things bigger when you want more force. You know, we've been doing that for quite a while. Now, you know, the creative minds are starting to look for different ways of getting, you know, additional leverage, prying it out of different spots, pun intended. And I'm wondering, when will there be some small high leverage pliers? If you know of any little tiny ones, you know, 6-inch or smaller high leverage things, I'm kind of curious. Now, as far as cutting, I did notice, as I mentioned, this is, I'm going to go into that higher leverage. This is just a regular nail. I can easily snip that off. Doesn't go flying too far. Compare that to this multi-plier. Takes a lot more, shoots it a lot further. Here is that crescent. You know, and this is almost good for a sacrificial tool. You can see it's getting kind of beat up in there. Let's see, right there. But anyway, that just snips it off. It's a little muted. I like that. Compare that to the NWS here. I can't even easily hold this and get the nail all the way in just because of the plier handles. You know, you can start these two-handed. That one shoots it a little bit compared to the traditional side cutters. Watch out. Shoot it across the room. But anyway, and of course there are other kinds like this. This is more for stranded wire, cable, etc. You just want to use the right tool for the job. This is a tool I'll get into. I have not quite got it figured out yet. I know what it's supposed to do, but I'm not using it maybe appropriately yet to get the advantage for such a thing. We'll go there. But anyway, there it is. The Wiha Bicut Supercut industrial electric handle with that power button. Let me know if you've got these or if you used them. I know a lot of people have them. They've been around, but new to me. Anyway, with that, Doc out.